weekend. Welcome to Rising. Thanks for joining us. How was your weekend, Briahna?
It was good, uneventful, restful, positive. And I'm really interested to get into all of the news that I was blocking out. I was trying to get some peace over the weekend. How about yourself?
Yes, same. There was obviously some big news yesterday, which we're going to get to right now. Take it away, Briahna.
That's right, Robby. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the 2024 presidential race. The Florida governor made the announcement yesterday after coming in third place during last week's Iowa caucuses.
If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory.
DeSantis also dropped his endorsement.
It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear.
President Trump said he was honored to receive DeSantis' support.
Before we begin, I'd like to take time to congratulate Ron DeSantis and, of course, a really terrific person who I've gotten to know, his wife, Casey, for having run a great campaign for president. He did. He ran a really good campaign, I will tell you. It's not easy. They think it's easy doing this stuff, right? It's not easy. But as you know, he left the campaign trail today at 3 p.m., and in so doing, he was very gracious, and he endorsed me, so I appreciate it. I appreciate that, and I also look forward to working with Ron and everybody else to defeat crooked Joe Biden.
Trump even vowed to drop his most famous nickname for the governor.
Okay. He just said, will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious? I said, that name is officially retired.
Well, tomorrow, New Hampshire Republican primary voters will take to the ballot box to cast their vote for either former President Trump or his one remaining challenger, Nikki Haley. A CNN poll taken last weekend finds Trump is in the lead with 50% of the vote. Haley trails 39% for her. So the exit of Ron DeSantis from the campaign, seeing a lot of reaction to that. Obviously, there is a perhaps not wrong perception that he ran a really bad campaign, that there was a lot of promise and hope vested in him that he squandered for a variety of reasons. For my part, I don't know that the campaign was so badly run. Rather, there was just really not a lot of chance for him once the prosecutions of Trump started coming in, focused the spotlight back onto Trump, and made so many of the very conservative Republican primary voters who DeSantis was hoping to inherit from Trump become more militant and more strident about sticking with Trump because of the perception that he's being persecuted, and that made it very difficult for DeSantis, although there's obviously a lot more you can say.
I don't know. I find this to be a little bit confusing. If the argument is that I'm the backup Trump, then the need for a backup Trump still exists given the reality of Trump's legal woes. And although I understand that there are ultimately some money problems that Ron DeSantis was encountering, his money problems have nowhere near the gravity of some of these smaller candidates who have managed to stay in with very little outside contribution and much less personal wealth than someone like Ron DeSantis. I'm thinking, for example, of someone like Marianne Williamson or even like a Cenk Uygur. So it is confusing to me why there's still not the same incentive to at least, you could staff down, you could weather the storm of a bunch of newspapers writing that you have basically a phantom campaign, but at least you're still in the running, and there's a different kind of humiliation that comes with dropping out so early in this contest when you announced, it was almost presumed that he was going to beat Donald Trump. Do you remember us sitting here, everyone saying Trump's campaign announcement was low energy, Ron DeSantis was the one that was, now we know, peaking in the polls. That was as high as it ever got for him. And so it does confuse me a little why he would drop out at this stage unless there is an attempt to eat into any momentum that Nikki Haley can get out of New Hampshire and have Trump benefit from the fact that these DeSantis voters and Trump voters largely overlap, and that Trump is likely to get the benefit of Ron DeSantis no longer competing in that race.
Well, if you think about it from DeSantis' perspective, obviously he wanted to be the nominee. If he's conceding he's not going to be the nominee, he'd rather the nominee be Trump than Haley, because
Sure.
if Haley is the nominee and Haley wins, Haley could be president for 8 years, and that pushes DeSantis' aspirations further down the line.
Sure, but that kind of presupposes that Nikki Haley has a real legitimate chance of beating Donald Trump, as opposed to, again, if they're both competing for what if Donald Trump drops out, and he's not in the race at all, then what does Nikki Haley really have to do with it?
No, he wants, it's just like you said, he can get out now, shore up Trump's support, make sure Trump defeats Haley for the nominee, Trump will be the candidate.
But Trump not winning is not about Trump not being able to beat Haley in the primary. It would be about Trump being precluded from running because of some legal issue, right? So again, I don't understand the logic behind this.
I mean, there's not enough. He probably perceives there isn't any momentum on his side. Yes, he could wait it out. Yes, he could take the chance that somehow Trump is going to be knocked out by the legal situation, the constitutional situation, and then also overcome Haley, something that is seeming, I think, increasingly unlikely, as she's gonna have this potentially do well, and he was going to do better in New Hampshire than he was going to do. I don't know. I think there's just an idea that the wheels were falling off, that he didn't have a lot of some of his supporters, some of his donors had switched from his camp to Haley's camp. I don't know.
One thing informing my views here are remembering that Joe Biden came in fifth in New Hampshire back in 2020. The idea of doing poorly in one of these early contests really doesn't mean much of anything at all. I do wonder, however, if this has something to do with shoring up his relationship with Donald Trump, whose endorsement he might need for a subsequent round at this. Ron DeSantis is a young guy. He's really dealt with the problem of being from Donald Trump's state, two Florida men competing for the same audience. I've seen so many interviews of people in Florida being asked what they feel about these two candidates and saying, oh, I just wish they could work together. I like both of them. He was a good governor, even if I don't want to vote for him as president. And I do wonder if dropping it at this stage earns him some goodwill. Trump retiring Ron DeSanctimonious and Meatball Ron,
all but
and so that they have more. He's a unity candidate, and they're able to actually have a good effort going forward in 4 years from now.
Except for the most toxically online pro-DeSantis and pro-Trump people who really do hate each other. There's some love lost there. Slightly reminiscent of like Bernie bros versus Hillary people kind of levels of dislike. That's a small corner. But for the most part, I think this feud is going to be forgotten. I mean, you saw Trump there. The feud is over for him. He doesn't care now. Trump follows a very basic, attack strategy. Like if you're running against him, if you're speaking against him, you're against him. He's going to attack you. The second that's over, it's over. If DeSantis is,
but it's over because he dropped out. That's my point.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Right, it's not going to. So DeSantis will be welcomed back into the Trump fold and can be on good terms with all the Trump people, and will be. Now we're going to go back to remembering what a great COVID governor he is, and how he fights woke the way conservatives want, and he will still have a bright future ahead of him.
It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to.
Yeah. Well, we have much more rising coming up. Stick around. Stay tuned.